Well, I've got some chisels, and they're not in a box. I've got a piece of firewood. It's cherry, and it's too bad that it was a piece of firewood because there's a flame in there that's just beautiful. I made some other things out of the same tree, but that piece of cherry wood looks like a box. It's a little raw right now, but it looks like a box. Okay, now that I have one flat side, and that's going to be the base because this is the face that I want to take off. That's the face that I can see the flame on. And you can see they book match up very nicely. Time to plane these down now. Okay, here's our lumber. It's cut and it's milled. Fairly thin, but this is going to be a fairly small box. Beautiful wood, beautiful wood. You can see it just shimmer as I move. All right, for this box, I want to book match these and edge glue them, but they need to be, the edges need to be cleaned up. And the way I do that is with my 3-lobe shooting board. So that's next up on the agenda. Got to take off the rough edge so that I can glue these properly. Now this is my glue up board, and I've used this board for years, frankly, for gluing up very thin pieces of wood. And here I have an old guitar top that I didn't put any body around. But if you look very closely on this, you can see that there are actually 8 pieces of wood glued up across the edges here. And if I turn it over, you can see that a little better. In fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, although I have waxed this board, I prefer to always use some paper so that I don't actually end up gluing the piece down to the board. I would say that made a pretty nice joint right there. Now what I'm going to do is, so you don't see the bottom from the outside, that means I'm going to put a rabbet on the interior piece of the wood. And I'm going to do that here at the router table. Okay, in this operation, I'm going to rip these sides down to a generous 1 7/8 and leave me a little room to clean up the edges because the top edges are going to be seen. But because this wood is so delicate, I've gone to a 60-tooth blade. This is 60 by 10 inches, as opposed to my 40-tooth blade that I use for general cutting and ripping. This next operation, I'm going to roughly cut the sides to length, and they will be finished off with miters at the chop saw. And to width. Okay, and here you can see I've just finished cutting a rabbet around the top, and that's going to fit into a kerf dado in the sides. Here I'm cutting the first miter, and then I'll measure it out for the final cut. And the final cut to length. Last thing yesterday, I set up the couple of sides with these small glue blocks because I wasn't going to have any other support in these corners, in the mitered corners. So these small glue blocks will help to stabilize the whole thing and facilitate gluing up the sides.
This glue up is for the sides only and the mitered corners. The bottom is only for positioning.
Well, that part of the glue up went just as well as it could have. So now it's time to get the bottom glued in place. Okay, what I'm working on here is a retainer. And I'm going to cut out some notches in here. And it will sit somewhere like that. And then the chisels will be held in place by those notches. And I'll make these notches about 3/8 of an inch deep. And a quick clean out of the chatter marks from the saw teeth. And we're getting down to the final touches now. Because of the way this box closes up, we need a little something there to be able to pull this open. So I decided I'm going to put this nice piece of cocobolo right along the edge here. Nice little added touch. Finish them off with a little spray shellac. Just makes that grain shimmer. So here we've got it. Put some shellac on there, a couple of coats of paste wax, and we've got a delicate yet strong place to hold some sharp tools to not only keep them in good working order, but to protect everything else around it. Came off the fire pile. I think that's a pretty good use of firewood right there. Nice box. If you like what you see, come on back. I got some more.